Maya Johnson stood in front of her bathroom mirror, nervously adjusting her crisp white blouse. The fabric felt slightly stiff against her skin, a stark contrast to the swirl of anxious thoughts racing through her mind. Today was the day, her first big job interview at a prestigious marketing firm in downtown Atlanta. The excitement that had initially bubbled inside her now felt more like a heavy weight pressing down on her chest. She took a deep breath, trying to steady her racing heart. "Breathe, Maya. You've got this," she whispered to herself. But the words felt insubstantial against the flood of self-doubt that threatened to overwhelm her. She glanced at the clock. It was almost time to leave. As she turned away from the mirror, her mother, Carla, entered the bathroom, a warm smile lighting up her face. "There you are, my shining star," Carla exclaimed, her voice filled with encouragement. She walked over, smoothing down the edges of Maya's blouse as if adjusting the fabric could also smooth away her nerves. "Remember what we talked about? You are more than ready for this. You've worked so hard to get here." Maya nodded, trying to absorb her mother's confidence. I don't want them to judge me based on my appearance," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "What if they think I'm not qualified?" Carla's expression turned serious, and she placed a gentle hand on Maya's shoulder. "You are qualified, Maya. You graduated at the top of your class. Don't let anyone make you feel less than that. This is your moment to show them who you are." Maya took another deep breath, the warmth of her mother's support bolstering her spirit. "You're right. I can do this." With one last glance in the mirror, she grabbed her purse and headed toward the door, her mother's voice trailing behind her. "Go get him, girl." As Maya stepped into the bustling streets of Atlanta, the city felt alive with possibilities. She navigated through the crowd, her heels clicking rhythmically on the pavement. Self-doubt clung to her like a shadow, but she pushed it aside. She was determined to make a good impression. Arriving at the marketing firm, Maya felt a flutter in her stomach as she walked through the glass doors. The lobby was sleek and modern, with a large logo prominently displayed on the wall. She approached the receptionist, who smiled politely but seemed preoccupied with her computer. "I'm here for an interview with Mr. Thompson," Maya said, her voice steady despite the nerves tightening in her stomach. "Have a seat." "He'll be with you shortly," the receptionist replied, gesturing toward a row of chairs. Maya settled into one, her heart pounding as she waited. She glanced around the room, her eyes landing on the other candidates. They were all dressed impeccably, and she couldn't help but feel a twinge of insecurity. When Mr. Thompson finally emerged, he exuded an air of authority. His tailored suit and confident stride commanded attention. Maya stood as he approached, extending her hand for a shake. "Ms. Johnson, nice to meet you," he said, his grip firm but his eyes scanning her critically. "Nice to meet you too, Mr. Thompson," she replied, forcing a smile as they both took a seat. The initial pleasantries quickly faded, replaced by a series of questions that felt more like an interrogation. "So, Maya, tell me about your experience," he began, his tone slightly condescending. "You graduated recently, I see. What makes you think you're qualified for a position at a firm like ours?" Maya felt the sting of his words, her confidence wavering. "I've completed several internships and projects during my studies that focused on marketing strategies," she explained, trying to maintain her composure. "I've worked on campaigns that increased engagement by—" "Engagement is important, sure," he interrupted, a smirk forming on his lips. "But this is a competitive field. I hope you understand that just having a degree doesn't guarantee success here." Maya's heart sank as she sensed the underlying bias in his remarks. It was as if he had already decided her worth based solely on her appearance. She swallowed hard, clenching her fists under the table to keep her composure. "I believe my background gives me a unique perspective that could be beneficial to your team." Mr. Thompson raised an eyebrow, unconvinced. "We'll see about that. Thank you for your time, Maya. We'll get back to you soon." As the interview concluded, Maya felt a mix of defeat and determination. She stepped out of the building, the weight of Mr. Thompson's condescension lingering in her mind. Outside, the sun shone brightly, but it did little to lift her spirits. She pulled out her phone and called her best friend, Priya. "Hey Maya, how did it go?" Priya's cheerful voice greeted her, Maya took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. Not great, Priya. I felt like he was judging me the whole time. It's so frustrating to think that people still have these biases. Ugh, that's the worst. But don't let it get to you. You know your worth, and you've worked hard for this. You can't let one person's opinion define you, Priya encouraged. Yeah, but it's just so disheartening, Maya replied, her voice tinged with frustration. I thought I was ready, but now I feel like I'm back at square one. Listen to me, Priya insisted. You're amazing, and this is just the beginning. You're going to rise above this. Don't let it break you. We're going to celebrate when you get that job, okay? Maya managed to smile, her friend's unwavering support rekindling a flicker of hope within her. Okay, Priya, I'll try to keep that in mind. With renewed determination, she hung up, ready to face whatever came next. Maya Johnson stared at her phone in disbelief, her heart pounding in her chest. The voice on the other end was upbeat and cheerful, completely contrasting with the whirlwind of emotions swirling inside her. Congratulations, Maya. We're thrilled to offer you the position. Your interview stood out to us, and we're excited to have you on our team, the HR representative said, her tone warm and inviting. Thank you so much. Maya finally managed to respond, her voice trembling slightly with a mix of joy and relief. She could hardly believe it. After the condescending remarks and the doubts cast upon her abilities by Mr. Thompson, this was a victory she hadn't anticipated. I accept the offer, she continued, a wide smile breaking across her face. As she hung up, a sense of accomplishment washed over her. This was her chance to prove everyone wrong, not just to Mr. Thompson, but to herself as well. She thought of her mother, Carla, who had sacrificed so much for Maya's education and dreams. This was for them both. On her first day at the office, Maya walked through the sleek glass doors of the marketing firm, her heart fluttering with a mix of excitement and anxiety. The spacious lobby was bustling with activity. Employees were engaged in animated conversations, and the sound of keyboards clacking filled the air. She felt a flicker of apprehension as she noticed a few sideways glances directed her way. But she reminded herself of the promise she made to herself, to rise above the skepticism. Hey there, you must be Maya, a friendly voice called out, interrupting her thoughts. It was Lisa, a young woman with a bright smile who seemed genuinely welcoming. Welcome aboard. I've heard great things about you. Let me show you to your desk. Thanks, Lisa. I appreciate it, Maya replied, feeling a little more at ease. As they walked, Lisa introduced her to various team members. Some greeted her warmly, but others seemed to hold back, their expressions a mix of curiosity and doubt. Hey, I'm Mark, a tall man said as they passed by. He offered a half-hearted smile and added, Good luck with the work here. It can be pretty intense. His tone was ambiguous, leaving Maya unsure whether it was a genuine sentiment or a veiled warning. As the day progressed, Maya found herself grappling with the overwhelming corporate culture. The jargon was dizzying, and the expectations felt sky-high. She could feel the weight of imposter syndrome creeping in, whispering doubts in her ear. What if I'm not good enough? She thought, her stomach churning with unease. During her lunch break, Maya sat alone in the cafeteria, picking at her salad. She overheard snippets of conversation from nearby tables, laughter mingling with discussions about projects and deadlines. It was a stark reminder of her position as the newcomer, an outsider trying to navigate a world that felt foreign. Hey Maya, mind if I join you? Lisa's voice broke through her thoughts once again. I know how daunting the first day can be. Of course, I'd love that, Maya replied, grateful for the company. It's been a little overwhelming, to be honest. I get it, Lisa said, her eyes empathetic. Just remember, everyone here had to start somewhere. Don't be afraid to ask for help if you need it. And speaking of help, you should meet Ms. Walker. She's amazing and really supportive. Ms. Walker? Maya echoed, intrigued. Who is she? She's a senior executive and a mentor to many of us. If you're feeling lost, she's the one to talk to, Lisa advised, her voice full of encouragement. Maya felt a flicker of hope at the prospect of finding a mentor. Perhaps Ms. Walker could help her navigate the complexities of the corporate world and help her overcome the doubts that loomed over her. Later that afternoon, as Maya prepared to leave for the day, She took a deep breath, steeling herself with determination. "I can do this," she whispered to herself, recalling the words of her mother. With renewed resolve, she decided to seek out Ms. Walker the following day. After all, this opportunity was not just about proving others wrong. It was about embracing her potential and forging her own path in a world that often seemed intent on keeping her at the margins. Maya Johnson sat at her desk, the sunlight streaming through the large windows of the marketing firm, illuminating the notes and sketches she had laid out for her latest project. She had been working tirelessly for weeks, pouring her creativity and energy into a campaign that she believed could revolutionize their approach to social media. Yet, despite her innovative ideas, the shadow of Mr. Thompson loomed large over her progress. During a recent meeting, Maya had presented her proposal with enthusiasm, detailing how her plan could increase engagement and expand their audience reach. But Mr. Thompson had quickly dismissed her contributions, a smirk on his face as he remarked, "We appreciate your enthusiasm, Maya, but perhaps you should leave the strategic thinking to those who have more experience in the field." The room had fallen silent, and Maya felt the familiar sting of humiliation wash over her. It was a common occurrence, one that she had grown accustomed to since starting her position. Determined to rise above the condescension, Maya had doubled down on her efforts. She spent late nights at the office, collaborating with supportive colleagues who believed in her vision. "You're onto something big here, Maya," her coworker Jake had said one evening as they reviewed her presentation slides. "Don't let Thompson's attitude shake your confidence. This campaign can make waves." His encouragement fueled her drive, pushing her to innovate further. Finally, the day arrived when Maya was set to present her campaign to the upper management team. As she stood in front of the conference room, her heart raced, but she steadied herself, recalling the countless hours of hard work she had invested. "Okay, Maya, you've got this," she whispered under her breath. The room was filled with her colleagues, and she could see Mr. Thompson seated in the back, arms crossed, his expression skeptical. "Good morning, everyone. Today, I'm excited to share my proposal for our upcoming social media campaign," Maya began, her voice steady despite the tension. As she walked through her slides, showcasing vibrant graphics and compelling strategies, she noticed the shift in the room's energy. People were nodding, engaged, and even Mr. Thompson seemed less certain in his disapproval. When Maya concluded her presentation, a wave of applause erupted. "That was fantastic, Maya," Ms. Walker exclaimed, her smile genuine. "I can see how this could really elevate our brand presence." Maya felt a rush of pride, and for the first time, she saw Mr. Thompson begrudgingly nod, though his expression remained tight-lipped. However, it wasn't long before the victory was overshadowed by troubling news. Over lunch, a colleague approached Maya, concern etched on her face. "Maya, I heard from a reliable source that Thompson has been telling others he doubts your work ethic," she revealed, lowering her voice. "He's trying to sway opinions against you." Maya's stomach dropped. The very thought of someone undermining her hard work was infuriating. "Why would he do that?" she asked, incredulous. "I've put everything into this job." "I don't know, but it's not fair," her colleague replied, her eyes sympathetic. "You need to confront him. You can't let this go unchecked." That evening, Maya sat in her small apartment, grappling with her emotions. Anger bubbled beneath the surface, but so did fear. Confronting Mr. Thompson could lead to more backlash. Yet the thought of him tarnishing her reputation was unbearable. "I can't be intimidated," she muttered to herself, her resolve hardening. "I deserve to be treated with respect." The next morning, Maya arrived at the office with a clear purpose. She approached Mr. Thompson's office, her heart pounding. Taking a deep breath, she knocked on the door, and a curt, "Come in," beckoned her inside. She stepped in, her back straight, determination etched on her face. "Mr. Thompson, do you have a moment?" she asked, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. "Make it quick, Maya." "I'm busy," he replied, not looking up from his computer. "I need to address something important," she said, her tone firm. "I've heard that you've been spreading rumors about my work ethic, and I want you to know that it's unfounded and unacceptable." He finally looked at her, eyebrows raised. "Is that so? You think you can just waltz in here and accuse me of undermining you?" I'm not accusing you without reason, she pressed on, her voice unwavering. I've worked hard to earn my place here, and I won't let anyone, including you, diminish my contributions. Mr. Thompson leaned back in his chair, a smirk creeping onto his face. You're brave, I'll give you that. But don't mistake courage for wisdom. Maya felt a surge of determination. This isn't about bravery, it's about integrity, and I will not stand for your bias any longer. With that, she turned on her heel and walked out, her heart racing but her spirit unbroken. She knew she had just taken a significant step in reclaiming her narrative, ready to face whatever came next. Maya stood in the conference room, her heart pounding against her chest as she prepared to confront Mr. Thompson in front of their colleagues. The air was thick with anticipation. Her co-workers had gathered, their expressions a mix of curiosity and concern. The long mahogany table felt like a barrier, but today it was also her stage. Thank you all for joining us today, Maya began, her voice steady despite the nerves swirling inside her. I wanted to address some recent events that have been affecting our team dynamics. She glanced at Mr. Thompson, who sat across from her, his expression a mask of indifference, though she could sense the tension radiating off him. Maya, I think you're making a mistake here, he interjected, his tone patronizing. We all know how things can get misconstrued in the workplace. Perhaps we should focus on more pressing matters. Maya inhaled sharply, but she held her ground. With all due respect, Mr. Thompson, the issues at hand are not just misunderstandings. I have been subjected to consistent undermining of my contributions, and I believe it's time we address this openly. The murmurs among her colleagues grew louder, and she caught a glimpse of Ms. Walker nodding in encouragement from the back of the room. Undermining? That's a serious accusation, Maya. Mr. Thompson shot back, his voice rising slightly. I think it's crucial to remember that we all have our roles to play, and sometimes feedback can be misconstrued as bias. No, it is bias, Maya asserted, her confidence swelling as she pulled out a neatly organized folder filled with documentation of her work, contributions, and the instances where Mr. Thompson had belittled her in meetings. Here are the records of my projects and the feedback I've received from other team members. I have consistently delivered results, yet my input is dismissed because of assumptions based on my appearance. The room fell silent as she handed out copies of her documentation. Colleagues exchanged glances, some visibly shocked by the confrontation, while others leaned in with interest. Maya, you know how the industry can be, Mr. Thompson retorted, his voice laced with a defensive edge. You're new here, and it's natural to feel this way. No, Mr. Thompson, Maya interrupted, her voice firm. What's natural is to expect respect and acknowledgement for one's work, regardless of race or gender. She felt the energy in the room shift, her words resonating with those present. Maybe you should consider how your words affect your team. Ms. Walker finally spoke up, her authoritative tone cutting through the tension. We're all supposed to be working towards the same goals, and fostering a supportive environment is essential. Maya's heart swelled with gratitude as she looked at Ms. Walker, who was clearly standing up for her. Thank you, Ms. Walker, Maya replied, her voice steadier now. I'm not here to create conflict. I'm here to seek resolution. If we're to be a successful team, we need to address the biases that exist within our ranks. After a moment of silence, several colleagues began to nod in agreement. Perhaps we can open this discussion for everyone to share their experiences. One of her co-workers suggested hesitantly, breaking the ice. Exactly, Maya said, her eyes lighting up with hope. We need to make this a safe space for everyone, where we can speak up without fear of retaliation. As the meeting continued, Maya felt a sense of empowerment wash over her. She had taken a bold step, and her colleagues were starting to rally behind her. After the meeting concluded, Maya found herself in Ms. Walker's office, her heart still racing from the confrontation. You were incredible in there, Ms. Walker said, her smile warm and encouraging, but you need to document everything that's happened. I recommend you report this to HR. Maya hesitated, her stomach twisting. But what if there are repercussions? What if I'm seen as the troublemaker? Sometimes standing up for what's right comes with risks, Ms. Walker replied, her voice steady. But the only way to bring about real change is to take that step. You have the support of your peers. Use it. Maya nodded slowly, the weight of the decision pressing down on her. With Ms. Walker's guidance, she began to gather testimonies from her co-workers who had witnessed Mr. Thompson's behavior. Each conversation strengthened her resolve, and she felt a sense of community forming. I can't believe I let this go on for so long without saying anything, one colleague admitted, her eyes wide with regret. I saw how you were treated, and I should have spoken up. Thank you for being willing to share your experience, Maya replied, a sense of unity blossoming between them. Together, we can make sure this doesn't happen to anyone else. With each testimony she collected, Maya felt more empowered. The whispers of support grew louder, and she realized that she wasn't just fighting for herself. She was fighting for everyone who had ever felt marginalized. The journey ahead was daunting, but she was determined to see it through, knowing that true change required courage and collective action. Maya walked into the HR office, her heart pounding in her chest. The walls were lined with motivational posters, but none of them could ease the tension she felt. She took a deep breath, recalling Ms. Walker's advice. Stay composed and remember why you're here, she whispered to herself. The HR manager, Mr. Patel, looked up from his desk, his expression a mix of professionalism and empathy. Maya, thank you for coming in, he said, gesturing for her to take a seat. I understand this is a difficult situation for you. Thank you for meeting with me, Mr. Patel, Maya replied, her voice steady despite the anxiety swirling within her. I'm here to present evidence of discriminatory behavior from Mr. Thompson. I believe it's important for the integrity of our workplace. Mr. Patel nodded, his brow furrowing slightly. I appreciate your courage in bringing this forward. However, I must warn you that retaliation is a possibility, and it's crucial that you're prepared for any outcome. Maya felt a knot tighten in her stomach. She had thought about this, about the potential consequences, but her resolve only strengthened. I understand the risks, but I can't stand by and let his actions go unchecked. It's not just about me. It's about creating a fair environment for everyone. Very well, he said, leaning forward slightly. Please go ahead. Maya took a deep breath and began to lay out her case. She presented her documentation with precision. Emails that showcased her contributions, positive feedback from clients, and notes from colleagues who had witnessed Mr. Thompson's behavior. As she spoke, she felt a sense of empowerment washing over her, as if she were reclaiming her narrative. This is not just about my experience, Maya continued. Many of my colleagues have faced similar biases. It's time for us to address these issues openly. She paused, looking directly at Mr. Patel, whose expression had shifted from neutrality to concern. If we don't speak up, we're allowing this culture to persist. As the investigation unfolded over the next few days, Maya found unexpected support from her colleagues. In the break room, whispers turned into conversations. Did you hear what Maya is doing? She overheard one coworker say to another. It's about time someone took a stand. Maya felt a swell of gratitude each time she was approached. I'm proud of you, Maya, said Lisa, a fellow marketer who had once expressed her own frustrations about the workplace culture. You're not just fighting for yourself, you're fighting for all of us. Thank you, Lisa. It means a lot to have your support, Maya replied, her heart warmed by the camaraderie. The atmosphere in the office began to shift, and with each passing day, more colleagues shared their experiences of discrimination, rallying behind Maya. She found herself becoming an unofficial spokesperson for diversity and inclusion, participating in discussions that she never imagined she would lead. But as the momentum grew, so did the pressure from Mr. Thompson. He could feel his grip on the office slipping and began to manipulate the narrative. Maya overheard him in a meeting, casting doubt on her capabilities. We need someone who understands our clients, not just someone who's good at making noise, he sneered, glancing at her with disdain. Maya's resolve didn't waver. She knew she had to remain steadfast. She gathered her evidence, prepared her arguments, and continued engaging with her colleagues. We can't let him turn this into a personal attack, she told Lisa and another coworker, Tom. We need to focus on the facts. In a team meeting later that week, Maya took the opportunity to address the elephant in the room. I want to clarify something, she began, her voice firm yet calm. This isn't about me versus Mr. Thompson. It's about creating an equitable workplace for everyone. Discrimination has no place here, and we all have a responsibility to speak out against it. The room fell silent, and for a moment, Maya felt the weight of their collective gaze. Then, one by one, colleagues began to nod in agreement. "You're right, Maya," Tom said, breaking the silence. "We need to support each other." As she looked around the room, Maya felt a surge of hope. They were beginning to understand. Together, they could break the barriers that had long been entrenched in their workplace. The fight was far from over, but with each passing day, Maya felt more empowered to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The atmosphere in the conference room was thick with anticipation. Maya Johnson sat at the long, polished table, her heart racing as she awaited the HR manager's arrival. The walls were adorned with motivational posters, but today, they felt like a stark contrast to the weight in her chest. She glanced at her colleagues, many of whom had rallied behind her during this tumultuous journey. Each face reflected a mix of support and anxiety, mirroring her own feelings. "Do you think they'll actually do something?" whispered Priya, sitting beside her, her brow furrowed in concern. "I hope so," Maya replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "But part of me is still scared." Just then, the doors swung open, and Patricia, the HR manager, stepped in, a folder clutched tightly in her hands. "Thank you all for coming today," she said, her voice steady but warm. "I know this has been a challenging time for everyone involved. After a thorough investigation, we have reached a decision regarding the allegations against Mr. Thompson." Maya's breath hitched in her throat. She exchanged a quick glance with Priya, who offered an encouraging nod. Patricia continued, "We have found substantial evidence supporting Maya's claims. Mr. Thompson has a documented history of discriminatory practices, and as a result, we have decided to terminate his employment effective immediately." A wave of relief washed over Maya, and she felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes. The room erupted in murmurs, and she could feel the supportive energy from her co-workers enveloping her. It was as if a weight had been lifted not just from her shoulders, but from the entire office. "Thank you, Maya," Patricia said, looking directly at her. "Your bravery in coming forward has not only led to your vindication, but has also paved the way for meaningful change in our workplace culture." As the meeting concluded, Maya stood up, her heart swelling with pride. "I couldn't have done this without all of you," she said, her voice stronger than she felt. "This isn't just about me. It's about all of us who've faced bias and discrimination. We need to continue this fight together." When she stepped out of the conference room, her colleagues surrounded her, their expressions filled with admiration and gratitude. Priya pulled her into a tight embrace. "You did it, Maya. You really did it." The celebration that followed was bittersweet. Maya was overwhelmed with happiness and a sense of justice, but she also felt the weight of the responsibility that came with it. As she prepared to address her colleagues in the larger meeting room, she took a deep breath, channeling her nerves into resolve. Standing at the front, she looked out at the sea of supportive faces. "Today isn't just a victory for me. It's a victory for everyone who has ever felt marginalized or silenced in this workplace," she began, her voice steady and clear. "I was terrified to speak up, worried about what might happen to me. But I realized that we can't allow fear to dictate our actions. Change starts with us, and we owe it to ourselves and to future generations to create a culture of inclusivity and respect." As she spoke, Maya felt a fire ignite within her. "I'm proud to announce that I will be taking on the role of Diversity and Inclusion Officer. Together, we will work to ensure that every voice is heard and valued. I promise to advocate for policies that support our diverse workforce and to create a safe space for anyone who has faced discrimination." The room erupted into applause, and Maya felt a surge of empowerment coursing through her veins. After the meeting, the energy shifted from tense to celebratory as her colleagues gathered around her, sharing their own stories and offering their support for her new initiative. That evening, as she sat with her family and friends, celebrating over a cozy dinner, Maya reflected on her journey. She had faced adversity, but she had also found her voice. "I never imagined I'd be here, fighting for change," she said, her eyes sparkling with determination. "But this is just the beginning. I want to uplift others, help them find their strength, and ensure that our workplace is a place where everyone can thrive. As the night wore on, laughter and joy filled the room. Maya felt a profound sense of purpose settle within her. She was ready to embrace her new role, prepare to break more barriers and ignite change, one step at a time. Looking out the window at the bustling city below, she felt hopeful for the future, ready to lead the charge towards a more inclusive tomorrow.